The RSI Constellation Taurus versus the MISC Starlancer. One of these is going to be your next large medium ship, but which one? If you didn't make 100 mil during the first day of supply or die, you might have to choose one of these over the other, and don't let the size fool you. These ships are actually neck and neck, and we're going to go over that, and we're going to compare them, and you're going to find out this might be a much tougher choice than you realize. If this is your first time here watching one of my reviews, I want to give you a heads up now. I do not do detailed specs. That's boring. I'm not doing ship tours. There's a million other videos that do ship tours. I'm not going to show you the bathroom. Who cares? The goal here is to present a practical, side-by-side comparison of gameplay with these two ships. And that's what we're going to be going over. And before we get too far into it, I kind of want to clarify something because there's a lot of confusion around this. Ships have their own size classification system. The Connie is an S4, the Starlancer is an S5. Both of these are in the range of the large ship. They're both classified as medium freight haulers. Say the Hull A is a light freight hauler. The C2 is a heavy freight hauler. These are in between that. They're medium freight haulers. The size of your hangar does not determine the size of your ship. A medium hangar is a medium hangar, a large hangar is a large hangar. These are the size classifications for hangars. If this all seems crazy and overcomplicated and confusing, don't get mad at me, man. I did not invent this. Now let's get back to the ships. Unless you're a relatively new player, you're probably very familiar with the Connie, but you may not be familiar with the Starlancer. To be clear on both of these, they both provide access to the same gameplay loops for relatively the same crew size. And I say that because crew size is something that's just theory right now until lab support comes into the game. In fairness, you could probably squeeze 25-30 people on the Connie and go out and play together if you want to, without lab support in place to limit the number of people who can actually be on a ship without choking out. So if you want to put 24 people on the Connie and go ride the Squad Wipe Express, feel free. Their intended role, however, is gameplay loops that require a large ship in groups of up to 3 or 4 people. I am assuming though that you are a single pilot and not a hive mind, so we're going to talk about what this is like for a single player for a single pilot playing these ships. And speaking of pilots, the first thing you're going to do as a pilot is fly them, right? And how do they both fly? The Connie flies really well. It handles a little sluggish, but that's to be expected with a ship this size. The Starlancer is going to surprise you how nimble and how well this ship handles. Does it handle really well in a dogfight? It handles okay. It doesn't handle as well as you'd want it to, but that's okay. It's not a fighter. It's a large ship, so the fact that it handles as well as it does, be thankful. Now, if you're the kind of person that goes absolutely haywire, batshit crazy nuts if you have to slow boat through atmosphere in a really slow ship, the Starlancer might not be your gig. The Connie definitely beats this thing in handling of speed through atmosphere. Like the Starlancer, it's not terrible. It's not like trying to leave the ground in a reclaimer, which is like the slowest ship of ever, right? But that's okay. That's actually indicative of the entire Lancer series. And the Freelancer itself is also a little slow at atmosphere. And I don't want to miscommunicate here. I like the Freelancer. It's a cool ship. But for this exact reason, I actually hate flying it. As luck would have it, recently I found myself in a position where I was able to land my Starlancer next to a Freelancer and a Connie at the same place. And this is something else to consider. The Starlancer is a big ship. Getting into tight spaces might be more hassle than you want to deal with, and with a little finagling, I was able to land it here level. But look at the size difference in the Starlancer versus the Freelancer. You know, the Connie there next to it, it's also a large ship, and between the two of them, they make the Freelancer look like a toy. Now, getting back on topic, let's talk about the function of these ships, which ultimately is cargo hauling, right? And how much do they haul? Connie holds 174, Starlancer holds 224. There's some caveats with this. Usually you can get a lot more cargo into a ship than is listed by just ignoring the grid and shuffling things around, but not so much the case with the Constellation class. The cargo that it holds is basically the cargo that it holds, and that's all you can get in there. Plus, you're going to lose a few in the Taurus because some of the storage for cargo is in the very back of the ship, and getting cargo boxes in and out of the back of that ship without auto-loading is quite difficult. So you're basically not ever going to use that space, so you lose a few there. With the Starlancer, you've got 2 different storage options. You have the hold in the back of the ship, and you have the catwalk holds with the platforms that drop down on the bottom of the ship. Now, going to get opinionated here for a second. I hate the platforms. I don't understand what CIG's boner for these drop-down cargo platforms is, but they seem to want to put them in all of the ships, and this is a really inefficient way to load cargo. Just a little sidebar here. I personally wish they had just set this up so that the sides of the ship opened like gull wing doors and you could just load straight into the side of the ship. I would like that so much more. But I know why they did it, and the reason why is if cargo hauling is too quick and too easy, then there's no limit to how fast you can load your ship. And part of the way they provide economic balance is by slowing down your gameplay and making you have to work for it a little more. I'm not sure how that's going to help in a player-driven economy. We're just going to have to wait and see, because the drop-down platforms, they're here to stay, so get used to them. With the cargo grid in the back of the Starlancer, the actual grid itself is just along the sides. And so, for gridded storage, there's not much here, but you can get an extra 15 8SCU crates in here, no problem, just by shoving them all in the middle. So there's plenty of extra storage. So if you don't care about the grid, there's quite a bit more storage in this than is listed. Once you have that cargo on the ship, how are you going to protect it? Well, great news. These ships both have guns, and we're going to talk about that because this is actually quite an important point. When you first purchase your ship, it comes with guns on it already. So it's going to have base damage. But you're not going to keep these guns. You're obviously going to want to upgrade them. And given the way that things are in the game currently, you're going to upgrade them to energy weapons because energy weapons are currently where it's at. I'm tempted to go into why, but that would be a whole separate video. We're not going to do that. But I am assuming you're going to do this and you're going to go with energy, and you're probably going to want to go with attritions. So I've based all of these models based on upgrading all the guns to attritions across the board. Base pilot DPS. Right here. Connie's pretty weak there, right? But once you upgrade, that switch flips, and now the Connie is a beast. Starlancer is not far behind it, and yeah, I've won more than a couple of fights with the Starlancer, but it can't touch the Connie. Like neck and neck in a fight between these two ships, Connie's gonna win. I heard someone call the Connie the king of DPS, and that's at the moment, for now, until they decide to change things because people are having a good time. The Connie is the king of DPS. I personally never really worry about upgrading the turrets because most of what turrets do, unless you have a really ace turret gunner, is they just tickle the other ship or keep them busy or just keep their shields melting. But if you do want to upgrade the turrets, something you want to keep in mind is that the lower turret on the Taurus cannot be upgraded. The guns that are in there are locked, and so that's just the way it's going to be. Now for pilot DPS, each of these ships has 4 forward-facing guns. Size 5 for the Connie, size 4 for the Starlancer, and these sizes are appropriate for ships of this class. Now the extra power that the Taurus gets is balanced out by the fact that all the Constellation class is a little hamstrung by the fact that the pilot view is terrible inside these ships. There are struts everywhere. I mean, just struts upon struts upon struts. And for a long time, I wouldn't have one of these ships just because of this. I hated these struts so much. I hated the look at them. I didn't like flying the ship because this drove me crazy. After a while flying the ship here and there, I decided to actually get one eventually, and I had one for a while, and I can tell you that if the idea of these struts really turns you off, after you've been flying this ship for a while, you really get used to them and you just look right past them and they don't even matter anymore. So don't worry about that too much. Did I mention lots of struts? Now when it comes to practical gameplay, both of these ships are also comparable in that regard. Both of these ships have an exterior elevator. Both of these ships have porthole airlocks. The Connie has 2. The Starlancer has 2 remote turrets. The Taurus has 2 manned turrets. Both of these ships have an accessible cargo bay. The Connie's drops down. The Starlancer has a ramp. Both of these ships fit an Ursa. It's a little tighter than the Taurus, and yes, I totally got stuck and had to store the ship. The Starlancer has 2 decks, and because it does, it has access in the rear so you can get up and down between the decks without having to run to the front of the ship all the time. And this is done with 2 elevators that lead from the cargo bay up to the habitation area, which gives quick access to the engineering deck. Why you have to have 2 elevators instead of 1, I'm not really sure. And frankly, I'm not a big fan of having elevators here anyway. I think this would have been done a lot better with 2 ladders, but I get the feeling they were trying to limit the cargo space. Speaking of engineering, the Starlancer is up to gold standard and is ready to go when the engineering gameplay comes into play. The Connie is going to need another pass to bring it up to gold standard and implement engineering gameplay. So if that's something that's important to you, that's something to consider. Given all of these features and comparing them, you see the same ones across both of these ships, and really it just comes down to the Starlancer just has a longer linear design than the Connie does. It's not a much larger ship. In fact, if you look at them overhead and you ignore the engines on the Starlancer, these ships are the same width and almost the same length. It's just that the cargo bay on the Starlancer is in the rear, and so it adds extra length to it. And the double deck design certainly gives a lot more space too, so you just have more elbow room in the Starlancer. They do a lot of the same things. The simple fact is that in the Taurus, all of these things are much more compact. And you see the advantage of that when you are flying that ship. Now, let's talk about a comparison that's so close, it might break your heart a little bit. The cost of these ships. The Taurus sells for 8.043 mil. The Starlancer sells for 8.82 mil. And that's pretty close, right? You know, it's a difference 800K, but you're getting a lot more ship for 800K when you buy the Starlancer, right? Well, maybe and maybe not, because you're not going to keep it stock. You're going to want to upgrade this ship. And so once you start upgrading, then you start adding to the cost. Including turrets, the weapon upgrades alone are, for the Taurus, 1.2 mil, and for the Starlancer, 982K. The total upgrade cost, and I'm assuming you're going to be upgrading to grade A components, and we're assuming you're buying the components and not going out and earning them through the contested zones, right? Or getting them off of ships that you're pirate, which that's an option. You can get components for free, but I'm assuming you're buying grade A components. Total cost of upgrading: Taurus, 1.704 mil, Starlancer, 1.472 mil. So this brings the total cost of purchasing and upgrading these ships down to these two numbers. Notice a similarity here? The difference in total cost between both of these ships is a matter of 54K. And that's basically nothing. You can make 54K standing still in this game. So now you're faced with the agonizing choice, because these ships cost the same, they do the same things, they're both amazing ships. These are two really good ships. Make no mistake about that. If I sound like I'm griping, don't misunderstand me. These two ships are really good. I love both of these ships. So which one of these is going to be the best for you? It's going to come down to how you intend to play the game. Or you can be running with a group and you just need a little more space, or you could be hauling more cargo. You want to get maxed out on that? Or do you plan to go to a lot of hot areas and get into dogfights with a large ship and really dominate that? It's up to you, and there's a trade-off with everything here. I've said this before and I'll say it again. With all ships in Star Citizen, everything is a trade-off. You get this and you lose that. So you have to decide which is best for you. And it all boils down to this. For a small group gameplay, these are the best two ships in the game. If you decide on a whim just to run out and buy one of these, and you find yourself wondering later down the road, did I make the right choice? Whichever ship you bought, the answer is yes. Be sure to tell me how stupid I am in the comments. If you like this video, give it a like, it really helps me out. If you didn't like this video, then you're probably a miserable bastard who doesn't like anything. In that case, I can't help you, because believe it or not, I'm not a real doctor.